able to smell the ocean air while standing in a beautiful big forest is something that not many people can say about where they live. We live and thrive on a territory that was meant for us. When I realized how our language comes from the land and comes from the trees and comes from the mountains and comes from the wind, I just realized that I needed to learn it if I wanted to be outside on my territory more.
My name's Celia Joseph. My ancestral name is Tehilot. I am the executive director of the Snchim Foundation. Snchim Foundation is a nonprofit language organization that is advocating for the Squamish language, and our shared goal among all of our staff is to get as many people fluent as quickly as possible.
Squamish has such a different worldview embedded in our language. When you start thinking in Squamish, you start recognizing everything the way that our ancestors saw things. So the way that we relate to the land, the way that we relate to our villages, our families, everything you do then, from thinking to your actions, it's all grounded in Squamish ways of being.
It isn't arbitrary that we weren't allowed to speak our language. So part of trying to break our people was to take our language from us, was to render it illegal through the residential school system, through potlatch ban, through not being able to leave our reserves and not being able to meet in groups, not being able to speak our language in public places and being punished for that. It wasn't just a side effect of colonialism, it was intentional, and our languages were targeted for a reason.
So language and culture are one and the same, and they walk beside each other. It's such a emotional journey and responsibility to learn your language because it changes your view on the world, and you start to see the world a little bit how the ancestors did anyway. And if that goes, then a whole part of our culture is gone forever. And honestly, I think the problem is just we don't have that many speakers. We went from 7 fluent speakers in the 4 or 5 years I've been speaking to now we have 0 that have been born speaking our language. Yeah, it was hard. I really wanted to speak my language, but there was no way for me to attain that until the program came.
So our language program works in a very different way than kind of classic language learning programs. We are learning in a community-based approach, I think is how I would put it.
My name's Evan Gardner. I'm the original developer of a language learning and teaching system called Where Are Your Keys? We built Where Are Your Keys specifically to address the issue of Indigenous languages going extinct.
Sometimes we like to say we are language teacher makers.
The Squamish full-time immersion program, it's 9 months. You're in immersion. We get into immersion scenarios on day 1.
Here in our kitchen, every day we do cooking as a team in immersion, so they can practice doing common household things in the language. But it means that people can take this everyday language home and utilize it in their own space and be in the language at home. So this is the technique grid for Where Are Your Keys? And so you track when you've learned a technique, when you've done the technique, when you've taught the technique, and when you've taught someone to teach the technique. Because we are teaching people to be teachers, these techniques are crucial.
All the students that we've had, we've noticed each year is gaining more fluency faster than the previous year before, and we believe that's because of the methodology we use and how we don't hold back any language and try and push as much as we can as fast as we can.
Sign language, I realized, was a very powerful vehicle to teach someone how to think in another language quickly.
So these techniques help you stay in immersion without getting distracted by how to ask to do something again or to slow down. You can just throw the technique at them, like slow down or go faster, or technique 3 times, ask me 3 times, or technique I'm done. So if I can do these hand motions to people and they'll know what I'm asking of them, and it really helps us communicate with each other.
List intro.
Intro,
Stomp.
stomp,
Swat.
swat,
Ancha.
uncha.
You know, we usually use ASL, but we're always creating signs for ourselves. We call it like Squamish Sign Language sometimes because we have to come up with new signs.
Ons na namtkwa tsaapchit. Hauk tetrum.
You have to remember our language is very time-based, spirit-based, location-based, feeling-based. And so when we start diving deep into those areas of the language, it becomes a lot more advanced. Every single person I've worked with in the language, I've seen grow, I've seen evolve, I've seen become who they're meant to be. And I will always do this work.
It's really important to be raising my son as a first language speaker, and I really wanted to reclaim that back into my family.
Sometimes I just look around and think, wow, there's 20 of us speaking Squamish right now. I'm sure our ancestors are smiling down on us.
Learning the language and speaking the language has been what has felt like home.
The stakes are so high. We all have to ask ourselves, if not now, then when? And if not me, then who? What it can mean to step into a classroom where you're told that you matter, where you're told you come from beautiful people, where you can feel like you can express your gift and you can be a part of something so important. It is transformational for people, and it has changed people's lives, and it changed my life.